welcome to another week of Just Gay Stuff podcast. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Jess.
Ooh, sing-songy in here.
It is sing-songy in here. Now, I want to start off this episode before we get into the deep topic that we're diving on today.
Yeah.
I want to say for everyone who's watching the video, you'll see that Lauren and I are repping Matilda's shirts.
Woo, go Tillies.
So a couple of weeks ago, everyone, there was a few misogynistic comments that were made about the Matildas. And I want to say, as we're just coming off a couple of weeks after doing gay games, that this is kind of the reason why we still need so many inclusive things to do with sport. And, you know, on the internet, so much of the time you see all these comments in a comment section that are so misogynistic, so much bigotry.
Yeah.
And I just think we could be so much kinder. And some of the comments coming from a lot of the people, everyone has a right to an opinion, right?
Yeah, of course.
But I also think unless you're out there running 90 minutes on that field under that kind of pressure and anxiety and all of that, you really don't know what everyone's going through.
You also feel for like the Matildas being high in the spotlight because of the World Cup. They've suddenly got this extra pressure put on them.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, everyone's saying, oh, they're not as good as they think they are. Well, to be honest, everyone, they weren't the ones that threw themselves in the spotlight. No. The World Cup did that for them, and now they have a massive backing in Australia, especially from female identifying sport watchers, because they are seeing female sports take a rise to the forefront and actually be premiered on commercial television, which
is amazing.
Is an
itself,
amazing feat.
Yeah.
So, you know, I really think that some of the commentary is really uncalled for. And I think, yeah, unless you're out there on the pitch running those hard yards, it's really hard to take those kind of comments seriously.
I think it's also funny in the same way that we just had a big discussion at dinner time about the fact that like men are usually, and not all men, because I know it's not all men, but they're usually the ones to put those comments forward.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
When their teams are kind of not really on the forefront.
I just want to say everyone's taking the piss out of the Matildas, yet the Socceroos didn't make the World Cup and they didn't make the Olympics cut. So, you know, say what you want about our Tillies. They have had a hard run not having an actual coach and things like that. But also they're still striving to be as good as they can be with the support that they've got.
I think the other thing is, I know this is like a little Tilly's rant
podcast.
We're
definitely not a sports podcast,
We're not a sports podcast. We are queer and a lot of the Tillys are queer, so it ties in.
But as dedicated lesbians, we have to watch the Matildas and we back them at every inch of the square.
Square, ups, downs, all around.
Yeah.
All of them.
I didn't know where I was going with that, so thank you for backing me.
I didn't, always. I have forgotten my train of thought now because we went in that
Sorry.
circle.
You said we're not a sports podcast.
Oh,
we're
yeah,
a queer podcast.
we're not a sports podcast, but that's what I was going to say. Being a fan of the Matildas, I have Mackenzie Arnold's book, which is amazing, but, you know, we often forget that athletes, men and women, or however people identify alike, are human beings.
And we all make mistakes.
We all make mistakes. I think that's the hardest thing. When we put someone up on a pedestal, suddenly they're not allowed to do anything wrong.
Yeah. Also, everyone, for anyone who was following my bucket list venture from a few episodes ago, I played my first game of soccer, and let me tell you, I made so many mistakes. And
you wouldn't have known it from the sidelines.
I also did an own goal, which, you know, our team then drew. Drew is better than anything. I didn't want to lose, but we would have won had it not been my mistake. And I fear, you know, if I was on a world stage like the Matildas, imagine the scrutiny.
The pressure.
So let's just, you know, be kind. Let's be kind.
That was the point of this whole rant, really. It was just to reinforce the kindness and get rid of the misogynistic
and look, I know
statements.
The original misogynistic statements were made apparently in jest, but I think, you know, it's that old saying, there's truth behind every joke. And really, we as women have fought really hard to be seen in a commercial space, and we shouldn't be putting anyone down just because, you know, we've had a few losses under our belt. At the end of the day, you don't get better unless you're versing better teams than you. So hopefully when we get our permanent coach, we can start to see a really winning future.
That'll be really exciting.
And I hope it doesn't take away from anyone else wanting to go and play sport out there. Go and do you.
Yeah,
Go and be amazing. And the Matildas are icons in Australia, I believe. And I hope people agree. And if you don't, that's cool. This was our little sport rant before we get into
a little sport rant.
Before we get into an icon that we're talking about today.
We do. I was going to say, as we were just talking about Matildas and being such icons for female sports.
I gave you the segue.
You did.
I'm taking that.
And some of them into the queer space as well.
Yeah.
We know that our audience have been loving our educational episodes so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for the feedback, everyone. It's been really cool.
It has been really cool to have questions come at us that we're like, oh shit, we better have a look at that as well.
If anyone's following us on social media, well, more importantly, if you're not following us on social media,
hit those buttons.
Yeah, follow at Just Gay Stuff Podcast. But on our TikTok, we get a lot of questions and it's really cool to answer everybody. So jump on our TikTok if you haven't and get amongst the conversation. We love it.
We love the conversation. And, you know, with everything that's currently going on in the world, especially in places like America, unfortunately, I know I've said this in quite a few podcast episodes now, but I just have to, because a lot of our queer voices are getting suppressed, or even trans voices are getting suppressed and taken away from us. And, you know, we have such a wonderful platform to make sure that that's not a thing here. We are giving a voice to those people. So
yeah, it's really important to try and make those voices louder and to keep being heard as opposed to suppressed.
Exactly. And with that, we are learning about our queer history, our trans history. I was trying to do a cool like RuPaul joke, but I couldn't think of it because I was going to say like, because knowing our history isn't just about the past, it's about shaping the future. But you know how he says like, because reading is fundamental.
Reading is fundamental. RuPaul, don't come for us. We didn't steal it.
We didn't steal it. We know that it's yours.
We were paraphrasing you.
But yeah, knowing our queer history is just as important. So today we are speaking of one of the influential people in the queer and trans space. Today's episode is all about an absolute icon and legend, someone whose name was on everyone's lips, especially in the 1960s and 1970s. I am, of course, talking about the one and only Carlotta.
Carlotta. See, Carlotta is one of those icons that I know about her, but
I don't really know about
her.
That's okay.
Everyone talks about Carlotta as being this person at the forefront of a movement. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but I don't know what she did. So that's why Lauren has put this episode together today.
I'm going to tell you. And look, there's a lot of information and I could probably go on for a few different episodes about this, but I tried to condense it into...
Yeah, and we'll provide the links. We'll provide the links that Lauren used. So if you want to dive deeper into Carlotta's story, you absolutely can in your own time.
So known as the Queen of King's Cross, Carlotta is an icon in Australian entertainment. She broke barriers, shattered stereotypes, and paved the way for the LGBTQIA+ performers across the country.
Amazing.
From her early days as the star of the legendary... Now, I don't know how to pronounce this.
Lay Girls.
I was going to say, was it Lay Girls?
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure the S is silent because it's like French.
French, yeah.
It's French.
I thought
like the
Jabberwocky. Yeah, and I assumed that, and that's how I was saying it in my head. I was saying Lay Girls. So I was like, don't come for me if I don't know how I'm saying this.
I'll come for you.
Okay, well, that's okay then.
I'll just correct you.
Yeah, that's fine. Being a star of the legendary Lay Girls cabaret show to becoming a household name through television, activism, and storytelling. Her journey is nothing short of remarkable. So sit back, relax, and let's celebrate the life, legacy, and impact of one of Australia's rising stars.
Okay, I'm not sitting back because I'll look slumpy in the video, but I'm relaxed and I'm ready. So I'm ready to learn. Hit us with it.
Carlotta's impact on Australian entertainment and LGBTQIA+ visibility is profound, but to fully appreciate it, we need to explore her journey in depth.
Yep, let's go. Where did it all begin, Lauren?
Well, born Richard Byron, now that's her dead name, so
we'll just mention that once, yep.
In September in 1943 in Balmain, Sydney, Carlotta grew up in a working class neighbourhood where traditional gender roles were rigidly enforced. Now, you got to remember, this is like the 1960s or even 50s because Lay Girls was...
Well, when she was born, it was the 40s.
Oh, yeah, well, the 40s, yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
Need we say more?
Yeah. From an early age, she felt different from the boys around her. But in the conservative post-war era, there were no conversations about gender identity, nor was there any visible representation of people like her.
Of course there wasn't. It was the 40s.
Yeah. Without access to the language or support networks that exist today, Carlotta had to navigate her identity largely on her own. She found solace in performance and glamour, drawn to the world of theatre, beauty, and transformation. The allure of the stage was not just about entertainment, it offered her a space where she could express herself fully and authentically.
Talking about like seeing people in representation and things like that, you have to think people in the 40s, we know Oscar Wilde as a gay man was in the 1800s when we talked about historical couples, but without the internet being around until...
And even television wasn't really a massive thing.
If you had a television, you were a very rich person back in the day. So it's kind of like without that, of course, you're not going to see who else is around you that's like you. And then, of course, traditional gender roles are always going to play a part even up to now, like as we see.
Yeah, and of course, the theatre is a place of acceptance and expression because that probably was the only place where you saw that kind of representation as well.
And for somebody who is transgender, you know that back in the days before women were allowed in the theatre, men played all the women's roles.
Yeah.
So that allowed them that outlet. That's amazing. Like that was the only place they had to go. And of course, the theatre was so accepting. So of course, these people were going to be creatives and performers.
That's why you find a lot of queers in the theatre.
Yeah. And I need to stop saying of course, but I'm just agreeing with you.
As a teenager, Carlotta was introduced to Sydney's underground performance scene, where drag, cabaret and gender illusion were beginning to flourish. In an era where homosexuality was still illegal in Australia and transgender identities were barely acknowledged, these venues became sanctuaries for self-expression. Carlotta immersed herself in this world, learning from established performers and honing her skills in makeup, costume and stage presence. It was during this time that she became involved with Lay Girls, a groundbreaking cabaret show that would define her career and forever change Australia's entertainment landscape.
Yeah, that's crazy, hey. I wonder who she learnt off.
I don't know. I didn't go that far into that deep dive.
Because I also wonder, were the people that she learnt off drag queens? Or were they women in performing roles?
That's a good question. And I wonder if like our audience
knows.
If they do, please put it in our comments or message us on TikTok or Instagram.
You have to think, okay, this was when she was a teenager. So she was born in 46. So this is like...
She was born in 43.
43. Okay, sorry. This was late 50s.
Yeah.
So you would have to think the drag scene in Australia was still quite... timid.
It was very underground, and that's what they were saying, that it was quite an underground. And this is in Sydney as well. So in 1963, Carlotta became one of the founding members of Lay Girls, a cabaret show featuring all male performers in glamorous feminine drag.
Well, there you go. In 63, Carlotta was part of a massive drag show.
Yeah.
So there you go.
The show was created by American entrepreneur Sammy Lee and launched at the Carousel Club in King's Cross, Sydney, an area known for its nightlife and countercultural appeal.
So the underground.
The underbelly of the world.
The underbelly
of Sydney.
Of the queerness.
Of the queerness of King's Cross.
Yes.
What made Lay Girls so revolutionary was that it had mainstream appeal. Unlike underground drag performances that remained hidden from the general public, Lay Girls became a must-see attraction for tourists, celebrities, and even conservative audiences who were mesmerized by the show's illusion and artistry. The performers were often mistaken for cisgender women, adding to the spectacle and intrigue of the performance. Carlotta, with her commanding stage presence and undeniable charisma, quickly became the show's star. She was more than just a performer, she was a trailblazer, challenging societal norms about gender, beauty, and identity, at a time when doing so carried significant risks.
This is where I'm like, in general, creative performers that usually are queer, it's fine for straight audiences to consume it, but when it becomes too real, that's when it's not good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like in a creative space, everyone's happy to consume it for entertainment, but when it becomes someone's actual life and they want to live this way, oh, it's such a big deal and it's affecting everybody. No way.
Don't worry, we get into that.
Okay.
It's impossible to overstate the cultural impact of Lay Girls and Carlotta's role within it. The show wasn't just glamorous cabaret show, it was a bold statement in an era where gender nonconformity was largely invisible in mainstream entertainment. So that's pretty, like they said, pretty revolutionary for them to be such a mainstream.
Yeah, considering it wasn't underground.
Yeah.
Everyone was so...
For it.
Well, everyone was so willing to consume it, as we just said.
Running for decades in Sydney's King's Cross, lay girls became synonymous with high-energy performances, dazzling sequins, and boundary-pushing artistry. Carlotta wasn't just another performer in the lineup. She was the beating heart of the show. Her presence commanded attention, not only for her stunning beauty and commanding stage presence, but for her effortless charm and razor-sharp wit. She captivated audiences with her comedic timing and confidence, turning the cabaret into a must-see attraction for both locals and international visitors.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can't just be anyone and do it, can you?
No.
You need to have, what's RuPaul say? Charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent.
Yeah.
And you have to have the right amount of all of that.
That's true. And, Carlotta paved the way for a lot of Australian drag queens, I feel.
Yeah, definitely. And I kind of feel like, you really see the amount of talent that these people had when you try and do those challenges yourself.
Oh, yes,
like,
hard.
have you ever tried to write a roast about someone? It is hard.
It's hard work.
Especially when drag queens can come out and they have the quickest wit. I'm just like, how do you do it?
When we've spoken to BB or Anita or even
Hannah Kondo, yeah.
A lot of it is like that. It becomes your shield in a way. It's that quick thinking, deflecting. Yeah, not even deflecting. I think it's just that throw it back at the person.
But to do it well and tastefully is such a talent.
Oh, such a talent.
A talent that I do not possess.
Neither. Her influence extended far beyond the footlights of lay girls. At a time when being transgender was heavily stigmatized, Carlotta refused to live in the shadows. She embraced her identity openly, a revolutionary act in the 1960s and 70s, when legal and social barriers made life incredibly difficult for transgender individuals. Also, for everyone who has said that transgender is only a thing now.
Yeah, what a load of shit.
What a load of shit.
You have not done your history research.
Read your history books.
Read your herstory books.
Yeah, those.
Oh man, we're like a RuPaul ad right now. I need to stop. I'm
stop.
sorry.
Just stop.
I'm sorry. I haven't even watched it in ages. I'm just like, it's all coming out of me.
Her television career was just as groundbreaking. When she landed a role on number 96 as Robin Ross, she became one of the first transgender women to play a transgender character on Australian television.
Amazing.
We mentioned that in one of our previous episodes.
We did. Queer TV. If anyone wants to go back to that episode.
This was a significant moment, not just for the LGBTQIA plus representation, but for mainstream audiences who were being introduced to diverse identities in a way that was rarely seen before.
And this is in the 70s, 60s and 70s, everyone.
Literally.
Like, it's not new.
Nope. Carlotta's larger-than-life personality made her a natural fit for the media landscape beyond scripted television. She became a beloved figure on talk shows where her candid humour and unfiltered honesty made her a standout guest. She was a regular panellist on variety programs and even had her own segments, solidifying her status as an enduring media personality. Her legacy is one of defiance, resilience, and trailblazing representation. Through her talent and courage, Carlotta paved the way for greater visibility and acceptance of transgender people in Australian entertainment and beyond.
So she was really in the forefront of television for quite a while.
For a long time.
So people were happy to consume that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of straight audiences were over the moon to consume that. And I'm sure they loved all of her segments as well.
Yeah. Carlotta's journey to becoming an icon was not without immense hardship.
Of course.
As a transgender woman in the mid-20th century Australia, she faced intense transphobia, homophobia, and discrimination, both in her personal life and in the public eye. As a performer in Lay Girls, Carlotta became famous, but fame did not shield her from bigotry.
As we know all too well.
Yeah. While audiences were captivated by the illusion of the show, many struggled to accept the humanity of its performers.
What did we say before?
Literally what you said before.
In the opener, everyone.
Yep.
Everyone is human.
Despite Lay Girls being a celebrated attraction, mainstream society still viewed gender-diverse people as outsiders. Literally said that before. Carlotta and her fellow performers were often fetishized, treated as entertainment rather than as real people. Many audience members loved the spectacle but did not respect or accept the identities of the performers offstage.
We touched on this in BB's episode, and I don't know if everyone's followed our episodes in order or anything like that, but when we spoke to BB, who is a drag queen here in Brisbane, we spoke about the fact that as an audience, people think that they can do whatever they want to a drag queen. So there's, unwanted touching, unwanted groping, all of these things that you wouldn't do to a regular performer.
Yeah.
So why are you doing it to a drag queen? So this is kind of the same thing. It's in relation, like audiences pushing the boundaries and doing the wrong thing.
Yeah. She faced discrimination from the media as well. Reporters often sensationalized her gender identity, framing her life as scandalous rather than celebratory. Interviews frequently focused on invasive questions about her body and transition rather than her talent or contributions to entertainment. We spoke about this when we were talking about the Matildas, or I think it was the Matildas or someone else.
When people...
with sports stuff.
When queer people, especially queer women, are being interviewed, it's always about their relationship and not about their talent in the sport. I just want to point out here that don't you think it's funny how we talked about how drag started and it was because women weren't allowed to play roles in the theatre, so men put on their drags and they would play all the female characters.
Yeah.
So why is that okay? And everyone was willing to accept that because women weren't allowed in the theatre, but a man who wants to permanently dress as a woman or even transition to be a woman, why is that a problem?
Yeah, I don't understand how people can't accept
it's like, on one hand it's okay, but as soon as
I have no idea. King's Cross, where lay girls performed, was a lively nightlife district, but it was also dangerous.
Everyone knows the dangers of King's Cross.
They sure do.
You don't even have to live in Sydney to know the dangers of King's Cross, mate.
Or be a drag queen or anything.
I think King's Cross is a dangerous person for anybody.
Place.
Oh, yeah. King's Cross is a dangerous place for anybody.
Carlotta and other transgender performers were frequent targets of harassment, police intimidation, and even violence.
I was waiting for the police intimidation part.
Yeah. So I've got these two little parts. So street harassment and assault. Walking home or even stepping outside the club could be risky. Verbal abuse was constant and physical attacks were not uncommon. Carlotta has spoken about times when she had to fight back against attackers who sought to harm her for simply existing.
And everyone, we're still going through that today.
Unfortunately. Now, this is the police persecution. At the time, homosexuality was illegal in Australia, and while gender identity was even less understood, trans women, especially those working in entertainment or sex work, were often harassed by law enforcement. Raids on the LGBTQIA+ venues were common, and many were arrested for simply expressing their identities in public.
That's such a terrible time, isn't it?
So sad.
Literally, it's illegal for you to exist.
It's so hard. I have conflicting things where I say I'm very grateful that I didn't grow up in that time and live through that time, but I'm watching it happen and unfold right in front of me. Yes, we're very grateful to be in Australia and not have that going on with us, but to all our trans brothers and sisters
in other places. It's not even just the US. I know under the Trump dictatorship, it's it's hard at the moment, but I still feel for all the other people in other countries where being homosexual is still illegal. And I feel like we're repeating history in other ways.
It's so bad.
Yeah. Anyway, we won't get too political.
No, that's a different episode.
Is it? I don't even know if I want to go there.
Neither.
Let's keep it light.
Light. This isn't a very light one, but anyways.
What did Tegan say in our Christmas episode?
There's no light history.
Light.
Yeah. Carlotta's decision to undergo gender-affirming surgery in the early 1970s was groundbreaking, but it also placed her at the centre of a cultural storm. At the time, the Australian society and much of the world had very limited understanding and acceptance of transgender identities. Her transition was met with widespread backlash from multiple directions, including the media, the entertainment industry, and even some segments of the LGBTQIA+ community.
I can understand that to an extent. I don't think it's okay, but I just mean in terms of we still have divide within the community, you know, and I think that really sucks.
That does suck.
And I know people have their reasons, but I think it sucks.
Yeah, it does. The media played a significant role in amplifying the backlash against Carlotta.
Of course they did.
I find this so...
The media is like Daily Mail.
Yeah, but I find it so ironic in the fact that the media plays such a big part in rising her up and giving her those platforms only to tear her back down.
But that's what the media does.
I know.
They do it for everything. That's why, if you can, stay away from your mainstream television.
Yeah.
Just watch whatever you want to watch on your streaming service.
Watch Just Gay Stuff podcast on YouTube.
Yeah, hey, that's an idea.
Her transition was not treated with respect or nuance, but was framed as a shocking and scandalous spectacle. Sensationalist headlines and intrusive interviews often reduced her identity to controversy rather than acknowledging her as a woman or a talented performer.
Did you know, sadly, I actually read somewhere that as soon as she woke up from her surgery, there was cameras in her face. Absolutely no privacy whatsoever. It was you're a headline now. and not for the reasons that you were previously.
Wow, really? That's disgusting.
It is, hey.
Rather than being celebrated for her courage and trailblazing status, she was frequently subjected to dehumanizing language, with some outlets even questioning her legitimacy as a woman.
Still happens today. Sad.
Sad. Carlotta had built a strong following through her performances in Lay Girls, the famous Sydney-based drag show. However, while many audience loved her as the glamorous performer, some struggled to accept her as a woman outside the stage persona. This reflected a broader societal struggle to differentiate between drag as an art form and transgender identity as lived reality. Many former fans turned against her, unable or unwilling to embrace her transition.
That's exactly what I meant before, where people are happy to consume it as entertainment, but the minute it becomes too real, it's like, oh no, that's not right. You were happy to sit there and pay for it before, mate.
Yeah.
Like, and now that it's her reality, you have to be a dickhead about it.
Yeah, I don't get the switch off anyways. Beyond entertainment, Carlotta also faced outright discrimination in daily life. I've said this so many times, but Australia at the time was still deeply conservative regarding gender roles, and trans identities were barely acknowledged in public discourse. Her surgery was seen by some as a unnatural rejection of traditional gender norms, leading to social rejection and hostility.
Do you know what I wonder? I wonder really quick, like when she went to get her surgery, how she approached that, because it must have been really scary.
Oh, it would have been extremely scary going to a health professional.
She was the first in Australia to have gender affirmation surgery. So to be like one of the first surgeons in Australia to perform that must have been like, to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That conversation must have been really heavy and hard to have because she copped so much backlash from the media. I wonder if she copped a lot of
the medical field. Yeah, probably.
Also, I just want to add that I tried to look up the surgeon who did Carlotta's surgery to see if there was any information about him whatsoever or her, and I couldn't find a single thing. So if anyone has any information or knows anything more about that, I did the deepest dive on Google and couldn't find anything, and maybe I'm blind, but I would love to know more, especially about how stigmatized that was back in the 70s, and for a surgeon to perform that surgery is just amazing.
Yeah, I looked that up too, and I couldn't find anything anywhere. Even within the LGBTQIA plus community, there was not universal support for Carlotta. The distinction between being a drag performer and being transgender was not widely understood in the 1970s. Some audience who had embraced her as part of Lay Girls struggled to accept that she was not simply a man in costume but a woman living her truth. Additionally, some gay and lesbian activists at the time were focused on their own struggles for acceptance and did not always extend that advocacy to transgender individuals. Mm-hmm. That's so sad.
It's sad, but, you know, when we talk about that division within the community, there were some lesbians that wouldn't allow other women to be lesbians, and there were, you know, some men that were like, oh, you're not gay enough, you know.
Yeah, how do you define what's gay enough?
Exactly.
Or
you know, we're not fitting in one box, and we never have, and I think that's the whole thing about pushing the boundaries and pushing...
Also, the world would be boring if we all fit in one box.
I know, but it's pushing societal norms and challenging them that's like... Really, we only have societal norms because someone was like, oh, traditionally it's this. If we never had that... But how would you know?
Yeah.
If we never had that bored into our brains from whatever day dot, we would never have these skewed views of how other people should live their life.
What a utopia to live in.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't see that happening anytime soon.
I reckon there's a parallel universe somewhere that has like people just living their truth and no one gives a damn. And I reckon...
Can we go there?
I reckon they're all laughing at our world, being like, what a bunch of wankers.
We are.
Yeah.
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 But Carlotta really paved the way for the community in Australia.
Well, yeah, she was the first person to get that gender affirming surgery. So then when the second person came along and the third person came along, it wasn't so taboo now because someone had done it before them.
Yeah, exactly.
Carlotta was the face of...
She was at the forefront.
That movement. Yeah.
Carlotta's influence extends far beyond her work as a performer. And I'm just about to say what we just said. As one of Australia's first transgender public figures, she played a critical role in challenging societal norms and advocating for transgender rights at a time when trans visibility was almost non-existent. That's not saying that trans people didn't exist. That's just saying that the visibility, the representation wasn't there because we were fought with being dehumanized and the wrath of illegal shit. Mm-hmm. In the 1960s and 1970s, conversations around gender identity were rare, and those who did transition often faced widespread discrimination and marginalization. Carlotta, however, refused to be silenced. She used her platform to speak openly about her experiences, breaking barriers in the entertainment industry and beyond.
I'm glad she kept going for the sake of everybody else. But she knew. She knew that for the sake of everybody else that has ever felt the way that she did and that was going to come after her, she needed to push on.
Yeah. Her autobiography, He Did It Her Way. I've got to add that to my book list now.
Great title.
I've got another book to read, but I've got to add that one. Offers an intimate look into her life, chronicling her journey from growing up in Balmain, Sydney, to becoming a household name in Australian entertainment. The book delves into challenges she faced, such as public scrutiny, gender identity struggles, and societal rejection, while also celebrating her triumphs, including her career as the lead performer in the iconic drag show Lay Girls. Through her candid storytelling, Carlotta provided insight into the realities of being a transgender woman in an era of deep-seated prejudice, helping to humanize the trans experience for mainstream audiences.
You know, the other thing that I say to people when they say they don't understand people that are trans?
Yeah.
I'm like, so if a person who's overweight wants to get liposuction because they want to be thin, are you going to put them on the hot rocks as well? Like, literally, you're changing your body to fit the way you want to look.
Yeah.
And the way you want to be. So it's the same as people who go and get...
I never thought of that before, but that's true.
People who go and get breast implants. Are you going to, be derogatory towards people who just want to look how they want to look because they want to be a cup bigger or 2 cups bigger, or people that get lip injections because they want fuller lips? How is this any different?
Yeah.
They're changing their
appearance on the outside to fit how they
want to be on the inside. And, at the end of the day, people do it because they want to feel beautiful.
Yeah.
And people deserve to feel beautiful.
Everybody should feel beautiful.
In the way that they want to feel beautiful.
Yeah.
No one should stand here going, oh, they shouldn't do that. They shouldn't do that. Yes, we all view beauty in different ways, and we might stand here and say, oh, that person looked better before that. But it's not up to us.
No.
It's up to them.
And
what
if it
they
makes them
do.
happy, who cares?
And you know what else? It doesn't affect my life.
Yeah.
And it doesn't affect your life. So let's just move the fuck on.
Yeah. That was a great analogy, and I understood that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
Thanks.
In 2014, her legacy was further cemented with the release of Carlotta. See, this is one you'll watch because you won't read the book, so that's fine. A biopic starring Jessica Moraes.
I actually watched a bit of this.
Did you?
I haven't finished it.
I haven't. The film brought her story to a new generation, shedding light on the barriers she broke in entertainment and LGBTQIA+ advocacy. The dramatization of her life emphasized the strength it took to live authentically in a society that was often hostile to those who defied traditional gender roles.
I think the only problem with the fact that Jessica Moraes played Carlotta was the fact that Jessica Moraes isn't transgender.
Yeah.
So I think if they were to remake that now with a transgender actress, that would be awesome.
Hunter Schafer.
Oh, yes. Yes.
That was the first person that came to my
Hunter
head.
Schafer.
That was the first person that came to my head when I was like, yeah.
Amazing. Awesome.
Maybe it was the blonde. I don't know.
Or, well, they have to be Australian though because it's an Australian story. Anyway, I'm sure there's someone out there.
Someone's out there. Mm-hmm. Despite the many obstacles she encountered, ranging from legal and social discrimination to intense media scrutiny, Carlotta remains steadfast in her identity and passion for performance. She has not only inspired the LGBTQIA community, but has also contributed to broader conversations about gender identity, representation, and human rights. Mm-hmm. Through her boldness and courage, Carlotta helped change public perceptions, making it easier for future generations of transgender individuals to live openly and proudly.
Yeah, like we said before.
Thank goodness.
The fact that she just kept going definitely paved the way for it to be easier for the people that came behind her.
I think it takes a very special person to be able to do that.
Oh, definitely. You would have to be so
thick-skinned.
So strong, so brave. I think as a performer, you have to be thick-skinned anyway.
Yeah.
And I think like that's something I'm really not. I feel like I come across as a hard person, but things
You're
really affect me.
You're a little gooey person on the inside. You're a little gooey softy.
And
that's not a bad thing.
No, but I think a lot of people are like that. You know, they come across like things don't hurt them, but really...
But that's the problem. Like words and hateful things hurt people. That Sticks and Stones song was fucking wrong.
We said that in that other episode.
I know.
You know, whoever said that, it was fucking lying.
Yeah. Carlotta has been relatively private about her romantic relationships because I tried to do a deep dive and I couldn't find anything on this.
Okay.
But she has mentioned past partners in interviews. In her autobiography, He Did It Her Way, she touches on relationships she had over the years, including both serious partnerships and fleeting romances. As a transgender woman in the mid to late 20th century, navigating relationships was often challenging due to societal attitudes and legal restrictions. She has spoken candidly about the difficulties of finding genuine love and acceptance, particularly in a time when transgender identities were misunderstood or stigmatized.
I bet you any amount of money, it would have been a case of all these straight men wanting to just
See
have
what
an
it was
experience
like,
and then just fuck her over, which would have been terrible.
Now, unfortunately, because she grew up in the 60s, 70s, and of course the 80s, so regarding the AIDS crisis, Carlotta lived through one of the most devastating periods for the LGBTQIA plus community, especially in the entertainment and drag performance scenes. She witnessed many of her friends and colleagues succumb to the disease, as the virus disproportionately affected gay men and other marginalized groups. See, I just wanted to put that in there because it wasn't just gay
It wasn't
men.
just the queer community.
In interviews, she has spoken about the heartbreak of losing so many people close to her, including her fellow performers from Lay Girls.
Yeah, it's so sad.
During this time, she became an advocate for awareness and compassion, using her platform to help destigmatize discussions around HIV and AIDS. She has reflected on how the crisis not only devastated lives, but also fueled ignorance and discrimination.
As we know.
As we know, yeah. As many in society viewed the epidemic through a lens of fear and prejudice. In Tim's episode, we spoke about this with COVID.
Yeah, how COVID affected the Asian community here in Australia. And, you know, both Lauren and I were so naive to even think about that, not coming from Chinese or Filipino or Korean
Asian
or
descent. Yeah. Well, I mean,
I'm Asian descent,
do,
but I don't.
Different.
I'm not visibly of Asian descent, really. So, you know, they faced an extra hardship. And sometimes people just look for a reason to discriminate, honestly.
Yeah, I don't get it. Hurt people. So.
Well, that's it, isn't it?
Yeah. Despite this, Carlotta remained resilient, continuing to perform and support those affected by the crisis. Her ability to survive and thrive through such a tumultuous period speaks to her strength and determination, reinforcing her status as a trailblazer in both entertainment and LGBTQIA+ advocacy.
I wonder what having a platform looked like in the 80s, because it's not like she just had an Instagram page.
Yeah, I was thinking that. It wasn't like this now where, they're all have the Instagram page or the TikTok and
like,
blow up on digital.
Was it a mailing list that was like actual mailing?
Or like a newsletter? Or was it just the case of she was on TV shows and...
So she would bring it up for people who followed her.
Yeah, followed her on that or...
That's so intriguing.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but yeah. So what is Carlotta's legacy? A lot.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, have we listened?
I was like, that's what I mean. Like, there was so much more to this, but I was trying to put it all into one little thing.
All of our educational episodes are like a quick dive. So if you had to tell somebody about this tomorrow, you would have a simple overview.
A snippet.
To be like, yeah, it's like this.
Yeah. Carlotta's impact extends far beyond this stage. She is more than just an entertainer. She's a trailblazer, a fearless advocate, and a living testament to the power of authenticity. Yeah, amen. As one of Australia's most iconic transgender figures, her contributions to both the entertainment industry and the LGBTQIA+ rights have left an enduring legacy that continues to inspire generations. I mean, I feel inspired after this episode. So, from her early days as the star of Lay Girls, the legendary Sydney Cabaret show, to becoming a respected media personality, Carlotta shattered glass ceilings in an era where visibility for transgender individuals was scarce. She faced prejudice, discrimination, and countless obstacles, yet she never wavered in her commitment to being her true self. By doing so, she carved a path for others to follow, proving that one's identity should never be a barrier to success.
And there are heaps of times where I feel like for me as a person, I would have just given up.
Yeah.
Or I would have gone into hiding. I would have been like, that's it from me. You know? It's kind of like, I know we briefly touched on it in Tim's episode, but when Ellen was cancelled the first time for coming out as a lesbian and she got all that hate, it's like she just went away because it's hard. It's hard to continue forward.
It is hard. But luckily Carlotta didn't.
Yeah, luckily.
She was among the first transgender women in the world to achieve mainstream recognition in entertainment, long before conversations about inclusivity and representation became widely acknowledged. Her story is not just one of personal triumph, but a cultural transformation. She forced Australia to confront outdated attitudes and embrace change.
Can someone still be doing that? Because we haven't taken that much of a step forward, really.
Yeah. Beyond entertainment, Carlotta became an outspoken advocate for transgender rights, using her platform to educate, uplift, and fight for equality. And in 2020, she received the Member of the Order of Australia, AM, for her services to the performing arts and the LGBTQIA+ community. In 2021, Carlotta retired after 62 years with a farewell tour titled I'm Not Dead Yet, Darlings.
Great title.
I was like, what a great name.
Also, 62 years. Holy hell.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
That is amazing. But the performer was tempted back on the stage with the Queensland Stage musical production of Priscilla Queensland Stage musical production of Priscilla alongside fellow showgirl Vonnie.
Oh, that would have been good. Does it say why she didn't do it?
No, it doesn't.
Ah, okay.
As we reflected on Carlotta's achievements, we must also recognise that the journey towards equality is far from over. Her legacy is a call to action to continue amplifying marginalised voices, to create spaces where diversity is celebrated, and to champion authenticity in all its forms.
Is Carlotta still alive?
Yes, she is.
Really? Even from the 40s? Because I was looking at this going, oh, you haven't put she died at this age. And I'm like, she's still going strong.
She's still going. She's currently 81 years old and currently living it up on the Gold Coast.
Living it up on the Goldie. Oh, she's in our backyard.
Yeah,
we
she
should
is.
try and do an actual interview.
Let's get an interview with Carlotta. I think that would be amazing.
That would be amazing. I really wonder what she thinks of how we as a society are going. Because I'm sure for her to be the first person in Australia to do gender affirming surgery and then see so many other people be able to do it after she was the first.
You would feel such a sense of pride as your legacy.
It must be a really amazing feeling. It's just that thing I was the first and now because of me, other people have been able to do it. You open up this space for people. And that just... yeah, I can't imagine the feeling. And I just hope that, to an extent, well, she should be very proud of herself.
She should be very proud, yeah.
But I hope to an extent, we can keep moving forward so that some of these legacies don't get lost. Because if we stop fighting for our rights, everyone, that's exactly what will happen.
Well, that's what we said at the very beginning of this episode. We continue to do this podcast to give a voice to those people because unfortunately a lot of our friends that are in that queer space or trans space or whichever space they are in,
minority marginalized
space, they have chosen to take a step back from social media or chosen to take a step back from being in the visible eye. And I'm like, no, now's the time where you need to fight again.
But then it comes down to safety.
I know it does.
It's so crazy.
It is. It's a bittersweet.
Before we end this episode, I had a friend ask me, a friend who identifies as straight, ask me the other day, why is it that you all stay in one group? Or and he didn't just mean queer people. He meant people in marginalized groups usually stay together and they don't venture outside.
I think it's our pack mentality to be safe.
Well, I just said, would you go to a space where you don't feel safe or where you feel like you're going to get hurt? Or would you go to a space where as soon as you show up there, you're accepted for exactly who you are and can be the person you want?
And you don't have to hide parts of you and it's like a sigh of relief when you're with your people. You're like, huh.
Exactly. And that's exactly why we talk about chosen family, because your chosen family is the family you can be unapologetically yourself around. But I just thought I'd bring that question up because I thought that was quite an interesting thing to ask because I never really thought about how other people view it. We all stay in our own groups.
Yeah.
But there's a reason for that. And I think it's safety first. And
that's what it is.
numbers.
It's safety. That's what I said. It's pack mentality.
You want to be around people that you relate to and that relate to you.
Yeah.
There's no point in would you go and spend time with people who you have nothing in common with? No way. No way.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a nice way to end this episode. A little bit of education. You've educated an ally on that situation.
Definitely. So that's cool.
So if you guys enjoyed this deep dive into the life of Carlotta, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify.
Yeah, hit the like on Instagram and all of that stuff. I don't know social media anymore.
I was like,
It's
like
too
on
much.
Instagram, follow on Instagram, like on Facebook.
Yeah, that, whatever Lauren said. And yeah, if you have any other stories or you want to know about something in particular, please let us know at justgaystuffpodcast@gmail.com.
And get amongst us in the comments section.
Yeah, let us know what you think. And as you guys know already, we love hearing from you and it's a good time.
Yeah.
We're here to have a good time.
We are.
And
so thank you for joining us on this wonderful journey through an amazing Australian icon.
And until next time,
you better remember to
stay gay, motherfuckers.
I'm talking about, you're talking about, we're talking about just gay stuff.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Just Gay Stuff. Make sure to follow us at Just Gay Stuff Podcast on all your socials and write to us with your stories at justgaystuffpodcast@gmail.com.